How's it going? Aaron Schultz, Cup Check Wrestling here in the middle of BC Family Day long weekend. It is a long weekend, and Ace and I recorded like it was a long weekend. We had no time limit, and it showed. We decided to tackle the news of the week, but also add our discussions on the Wrestling Observer newsletter year end awards as a way to look back at the year that was, as we had tackled our predictions or our outlook for the year that was going to be here in 2026 on our inaugural edition. So we went too long. We went 4 hours. So post production note, we're divvying this up into two. One that's 3 hours for our news of the week. One that's another hour, which is our take on the year end awards and having a lot of fun with that. So the longer episode is definitely the most time sensitive of the two. The shorter one, it's just a bonus episode. It's just for fun. So, yeah, we'll be back to regularly scheduled programming next week. So, enjoy this marathon long weekend long episode of Cup Check Wrestling Podcast and enjoy this bonus one as well. Thanks so much for tuning in as always. It's a pleasure.
Separated by the Salish Sea, connected by the Rio Graps in BC. This is the Cup Check Wrestling Podcast with Aaron Schultz and Corey Ace Trelaw.
Well, it is a long weekend, so we thought a little bit more of a longer episode because all of our office only, for the most part, will get a day off on the Monday before going into work on the Tuesday. So a fun issue of the Wrestling Observer newsletter came out where it looked at the year-end awards. So basically, contrary to popular belief, it's not Dave Meltzer deciding who gets to win everything. The readers, the ones who subscribe, get to send in a ballot on what they think these awards or who should win these awards throughout the calendar year of 2025. And it involves like fans like us or wrestlers or folks who used to be in the business. And so it's kind of a fun way to look at the year. And there's a lot of fun categories here. So Ace, we talked about looking ahead. I think it'd be fun to take a little bit of a look past as well. So I'm happy we're doing this right now. And let's have a lot of fun with this. So first off, Wrestler of the Year. So this is essentially like your MVP award, but a lot of things are weighed into this. So it's like, okay, first of all, are you a good wrestler? Like having good matches, but also where are you on the card of your respective company? And also, how is business doing with you? You know, that with you being the top guy and all. So that's essentially Wrestler of the Year. This year, the winner of the Luthez Ric Flair Award for Wrestler of the Year did not come from WWE, did not come from AEW. The winner of the Wrestler of the Year, Místico from CMLL from... I do not... Here's the thing. Okay, bear with me. I can't speak a lick of Spanish from... I can't speak a lick of Spanish, I should
Please
say.
Don't try.
From Consejo Mundial de Lucha Libre in Mexico. It's Spanish for World Wrestling Council, CMLL. Místico is the Wrestler of the Year. Ace, there's first of all, this incredible comeback. I think it's well earned. Your initial reaction once you saw Místico is the Wrestler of the Year, because I think a lot of folks who grew up with WWE would remember him as Sin Cara in WWE, and that did not go particularly well, but he's the Wrestler of the Year. So I guess what were your initial thoughts? And I guess you've had some time to think about it. Místico, the Wrestler of the Year, yay or nay?
Yeah, well, you know what's interesting? I haven't really kept up with him since the WWE departure. God, where was that? Probably now, like 7 years ago, whatever it was.
13, 14?
No way, really. When were Lucha Dragons? That was like 16.
No, that was the different. Here's the thing. So with
Lucha,
was
that the Hunico? Yeah, okay,
that was Hunico. So we'll get to that. Actually, I'm happy you brought that up about characters being filled, but continue.
But yeah, no, so I haven't kept up with him much since his WWE departure. But I don't know. I feel like, if you kind of want to look at everything for the body of work, I kind of think you almost got to go Cena. Just just on the idea that like everywhere he went, he made it like an event. I remember, so we talked about Quebec earlier in the show. Like I'd gone to Montreal for the show when he came in the summer, and like just because when we were kids, it was always kids love Cena, old guys hate him, right? And it was so crazy to see us all grown up now with grown up money, and like the entire thing was just 30-something-year-old dudes running into the bathroom to throw on the new Cena shirt that they just like. And it was a happening everywhere he went. He turned to Raw, he turned to SmackDown, he turned to pay-per-view or PLA or whatever they want to brand it. He turned it into a happening. And I don't know, I feel like it should have been Cena. That being said, I can't really comment on what Mystico's been up to. So yes, I don't want to say like, oh, how did he, but no, good for him. Glad to see he's still working and doing good.
Yeah, doing real good. So the interesting thing with Mystico, it's funny you mentioned John Cena because 20 years ago, Mystico was the wrestler of the year back in 2006. He beat
That's
John
right. Yeah.
Cena in Cena's first year Raw. So it's kind of funny that these two, all these decades later, are back at it. But with Mystico, so how do you say? So CMLL in Mexico City. So CMLL owns their own building. They own Arena Mexico in Mexico City. It's just a little under 17,000 people. So throughout the course of the year, they run about like 3 shows per week. Mystico's been the top guy. He's been having some really good matches too. They do have some shows across Mexico, but at Arena Mexico alone, which 30% of your crowd is going to be tourists, but they had 1.1 million tickets sold or distributed at Arena Mexico in 2025, which is just, you think about the times about the territories, like say like Stampede Wrestling in Western Canada or whatever, to be able to go back to a venue over and over and over and to get that many folks and to see constant sellouts, it's something. Like, it's not just Mystico in his solos matches, it could be with his El Sky team tag team with Neon and Mascara Dorada. It's incredible, just like the amount of business. And I was initially thinking like, okay, Cena has a really good chance because he was there from beginning to end, and business was unbelievable for John Cena. And he also won. We're not touching on it, but he was the best box office draw this year. Last time I checked.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, so he got that. Cena had the advantage that this was his last year, and so
Yes.
this was just a year for Mystico, and quite frankly, is an incredible comeback because, as mentioned, Mystico was red hot 20 years ago. I think there's only like 18 shows, I think, that year. Like, they had 10,000 plus fans at Arena Mexico, like 18 times in 2006, and like that was enough kind of to make Mystico a super draw. And so eventually, years later, he signs with WWE, and luchadors can have a lot of issues translating to American televised wrestling, especially WWE, in a way that they do a certain thing, because there's some differences. And Mystico is coming in, and they gave him Chavo Guerrero as one of his first few opponents, and there were some issues because WWE has a bigger ring physically than a lot of other spots. So there's some, yeah, it takes some time getting used to. They gave him like this dark blue light. It kind of took fans out of it. And then years later, what I think he's most remembered for in WWE was a tope suicida through the ropes to the outside against Alberto Del Rio, and he dislocates his finger and he calls the match off, where he kind of got some flack for that. Like, you're supposed to power through an injury. But Mystico kind of called that off, and eventually he left. And so when he came back to CMLL, and I like how you mentioned Sin Cara because it's kind of poetic because characters are being filled. So in WWE, Mystico was known as Sin Cara, and then when he left, well, there was like a clone Sin Cara that he feuded with a little bit, but then the clone Sin Cara basically became the new permanent Sin Cara. So Mystico goes back to CMLL. However, the Místico character has been taken over by Dralistico, who is the brother of Roosh, and he's in AEW right now. So it's just fun how folks can just fill those roles. And so eventually in 2021, I think it was, Dralistico leaves. And so the original Mystico is able to regain his character. And it feels like he became a super D duper star again. Like he's like, I love the comparison with John Cena. He's basically Mexico's John Cena. Like he is a god down there. Like AEW had their Grand Slam Mexico show there in June last year. He's having a match with MJF, and he has this beautiful Spanish song. It's called, well, I'll bring it up in just a sec, but basically, he's going up against MJF, and this crowd is singing his theme song, like belting it to the top of their lungs. And Tony Schiavone on commentary, he's been doing this for decades and decades. He just goes, holy smokes. And he actually uttered that. Like, he was stunned at how beloved this guy was. The song's called Mi Moro. I mean, I can't fucking say Spanish for the life of me, but
I was just about to say, when you said a beautiful Spanish song, I was gonna say, are you gonna try to enunciate it, or?
I'm gonna fall with style every
There you go.
single time. You will see how white I am. But yeah, an incredible, and it all kind of highlighted like one of the best matches of the year. So MJF goes down to Arena Mexico for CMLL's 92nd anniversary. He's taking on Mystico in a title versus mask match. So if Mystico loses, he has to unmask. Mystico is bleeding. He's wearing all white. He's basically bleeding like Eddie Guerrero did against JBL in 04 or John Cena did in 05 against JBL. He's bleeding buckets. MJF comes out in like Homelander gear. He's the evil American. And Mystico wins. It was such a great match. This crowd was living and dying by it. I mean, grant, I'm not too up to date on CMLL. I can't say I watch every week because I think the only way to watch it in Canada, you need to subscribe on YouTube, and it's $30 a month. And who has that? So it's rough.
Yeah, that's
But
actually, I should say, I do remember. I don't know if I was able to watch it, but I do remember hearing about the Mystico MJF match. So yeah, I
it
guess I
is
didn't put that in my head together originally.
fair. But no, that match is brilliant. If you're listening or watching this, go find Mystico's entrance at AEW Grand Slam Mexico. You get goosebumps. You get a little bit teary-eyed. It's unbelievable. So a tough one. I mean, also, like, very quickly, we'll have to move on, but like guys like Hangman Adam Page, John Moxley had good years. Cena is mentioned. Yeah, I mean, I think business-wise, Mystico's a good choice. John Cena, though, hell of a year. Hell of a final year. Gotta say, despite the problems early on, business-wise, this guy was unbelievable.
It does make you wonder if they didn't run with the heel turn and then they just did that full year of, the actual, like, how much better it fucking would have been, man. Like, oh,
We'll be
you
able to
still
touch
couldn't,
on
like, yeah. I don't want to get too much into this now, but
the
just go
awards.
ahead, say,
We
like,
got more
what could have
awards
been.
that we'll be able to
Yeah.
revisit this. Very quickly, the most outstanding wrestler. So basically, this is the wrestler who had the most outstanding matches throughout the year. Pretty handily, Konosuke Takeshita was voted by this. He won by 1,200 points more, I should say, than Bandito in AEW. A little bit more than Kyle Fletcher. Will Ospreay's in fourth. I had to think about this, like, because Konosuke Takeshita, he wasn't always in like those big, high-profile championship matches. I should say. I always think, God, Kyle Fletcher's unbelievable. Bandito's unbelievable. Will Ospreay's unbelievable. But I had to think about all these matches like you'd see on, like, say, a Dynamite or a Collision or something a little bit more down the card. Konosuke Takeshita, maybe not my vote. A worthy option, though. I think I would go Kyle Fletcher with a gun to my head. But no, worthy option in my opinion. If you had to go with like who's the most outstanding, who would have been your choice?
Yeah, I assumed Fletcher was gonna win it. So I was a little surprised to see it. I just, with how, like, kind of over he's been and everyone's been really getting behind him. So especially for a fan vote, I thought it would have been him. Mm.
Yeah, no, Osprey. Maybe if Will Osprey is healthy for the year, maybe he
I
puts a
think
vote.
that's, yeah, where I would have said, like, if he had had a bit more of a longevity for the year, but
as a fire engine goes by the main street. This is a great apartment
I
to be
had
in.
to mute earlier too for an ambulance. So,
Oh boy. One of these days I'll learn the mute button here a little bit better. That's on me, folks. Uh, but yeah, no, I think a lot of this awards talk will come about, okay, it's over the course of a calendar year, but sometimes you don't cover the course of a calendar year. Tag team of the year, by a hair, by like 12 points, the Young Bucks in AEW are the tag team of the year. They narrowly beat out FTR, also in AEW, Brody King and Bandito. And then in CMLL, Místico, as mentioned, with Mascara Dorada and Neon, they headlined a lot of those big shows at Arena Mexico. Uh, I was going to go with the Young Bucks. I know they didn't win the World Tag Team Championships this year, but they were probably in the best tag team match of the year with Swerve and Will Ospreay at All In. They were probably in the biggest story of the year when they lost their executive vice president status, and they were the broke Bucks, and they were in a bunch of hijinks involving them trying to get money somehow, some way. It was great stuff. So I was surprised they didn't win this outright, but I realized, okay, you know what, Mystico and his team, they had a good run. FTR won the championship at the end, and I guess they were involved in a pretty notable story with Adam Copeland and Christian Cage had one of the more highly anticipated tag team matches of the year at All Out Toronto. I would have went with the Bucks. I thought they would have ran with it. I was surprised at how close it was, and yeah, was just realized it was more of a fair vote than I thought it was. Who was your tag team of the year?
yeah, I thought I mean, me personally too. I was gonna say FTR, but I thought they would have gotten the nod.
It was close though. One thing I want to
Yeah,
touch
yeah,
on.
I was gonna say it's almost interchangeable. Honestly, they
Yeah,
both kind of at that
it
level.
was tight, and very briefly, I wanted to quickly touch on this. There was only one WWE team in the top 10, and maybe if they have a whole year, maybe we can see like Io Sky and Rhea Ripley doing really well. Maybe they'll get up on this list because I think they've done some really good stuff since they've been a tag team and specifically have been the tag team champions. The only in seventh place was Nathan Frazier and Axiom. These guys last year had such an incredible year in 2024 that folks said they were the tag team of the year in 2024, not the Young Bucks, because they were having spectacular matches the entire year in NXT on a developmental show. And I saw Nathan Frazier having a dark match this week with the former Powerhouse Hobbs, Royce Keys. Is where the hell are these WWE tag teams at? I just realized, where are they?
Yeah, well, I mean, they'll go through peaks and valleys. I think SmackDown's kind of peaked at SummerSlam last year, but Raw for a while has been it's not great.
No,
Um I
like they're not
thought
even.
if they had maybe executed the New Day turn better, but then that just became comedy as well as a heel. Um they just don't really do anything with these guys. It's interesting. I was about to ask you with the tag team of the year if it included female, because there's an argument to be made that some of those women could have been like a Charlotte and Alexa, who I thought they actually had a really good year together. Um, Obviously Riho. Um, but yeah, so I was kind of wondering if that was included with it or if
It
they had their own
does.
category.
Riho did get honorable mention votes, as did a pair of teams in Stardom, which in Japan, there's basically men's promotions and women's promotions. So Bushiroad owns New Japan Pro Wrestling, which features primarily men, and then you have Stardom, which primarily features women. So a couple of those teams got mentioned. Asuka and Kairi Sane got honorable mentions as well in WWE, Io and Rhea as well, Harley Cameron and Willow Nightingale in AEW. So our gal pals are represented, but yeah, would like to, I don't know. I mean, I love them as single stars, but I would like to see Io and Rhea together a little bit more, because even on that Saturday night's main event show with Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez, I thought that was a pretty hell of a match.
That was good
They did
stuff.
a great job. Yeah, need more gal pals. Moving on, best on interviews this year. Hangman Adam Page, number one. I understand this one, and this probably would have been my vote too, just because everyone thinks like, okay, who's the best promo? Like, you'll have great guys like John Cena, Cody Rhodes, CM Punk, who've been doing this for ages, and they're polished that they can deliver their lines remarkably well. The Hangman came across very, and Tony Storm is in third place too, I should say. John Moxley second, Tony Storm third, CM Punk fourth, and MJF's like another guy that can just recite his lines like no tomorrow. But I think the authenticity of the Hangman this year, as his character
Yeah.
evolved from someone who was tormented, who I guess he was choosing to be held hostage by his previous actions, and he had that slow but steady come into life moment, kind of peaked at AEW's Arena Mexico show, where he cuts a 5-minute promo in Spanish. And it, even though I couldn't understand a word, I could understand his emotions. I could see how the crowd was playing off it. I could kind of understand what it was being mentioned without the subtitles, and I think that kind of sealed it for him. Uh, Ace, I guess who is your best on air views this year? Do you have a rhyme or a reason, or yeah, what are your takes on that?
I can see that for Hangman. I think he had a really, really good year too. Um, yeah, I honestly can't like think anyone to rival it. I mean, there's guys that are good still. Like, Cena was always good, Punk was always good, MJF was always good. Um, but yeah, I think you're right about that authenticity. And it was just such a big moment, I think, with him finally, you know, saving the championship. So what's nice too is when you've got a storyline that people are emotionally invested in, doesn't matter what you're saying, people are just into it, right? So even if you put in a decent amount of effort and it's a hot angle, people are going to resonate with whatever the fuck you're saying. So I think that's where Hangman definitely benefited this year from, you know, it's the same like, to go back to Cody for a second, when he's in a program that's really hot, everyone's like, fuck yeah, when he's working Drew for the seventh time, and you're just like, man, just get to it, like. So I think the angle definitely helped Hangman in that sense.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, he definitely I think came off a lot more real, and you know,
Yep, I think we could see some votes this year for CM Punk and Roman Reigns if they get a little bit more of those promos
yeah,
like
yeah,
they.
we'll see how this goes coming into Mania season for sure.
Yep. All right, promotion of the year. CMLL, we kind of touched on the reasons why, like, 1.1 million tickets sold or distributed at Arena Mexico this year. And I guess the point is with this one, sometimes I think with promotion of the year, I remember when I was a reporter in small town Saskatchewan, Melfort. So there's this competition called Communities in Bloom, where basically they judge you on what you're able to control, like your environment, like how clean your community is, like your environmental action, etc., etc. But I remember a judge telling me, what, not during an interview, but can a community reach their full potential? Like, say if you have judges who are judging your community and they're more keen to say harbor communities rather than those in the prairies, then of course the harbor communities are always going to win. So WWE, they're number one by a bullet in terms of just popularity and revenue. Just their Netflix revenue deal alone can just like would always secure it for them if that was what was being based. And I think it's are can you be the best, like given your lot in life, what is your potential? And I think CMLL got a lot of props this year being number one. AEW came number two. Stardom in Japan came number three, and WWE was fourth. Ace, promotion of the year. Given those kind of judgments, would you still go with WWE considering just their business and what Cena was able to accomplish, or would you go elsewhere? Or yeah.
Funny because like you're right, it definitely like, I mean, the finances is what they're going to base everything off of. And they had a great year financially, but I mean, we've made this joke for the last year, you and I. I don't think there was one news story that came out in WWE for 2025 where we were like, nice. Like everything, just time out. It was always just, oh, great. Now there's this, there's that. And so it's tough because they'll look back. I mean, you can't completely discredit financials because they were very successful, but you do have to look at it with a bit more of a critical mind. Like, because yeah, like nothing that came, whether it was logos on the mat, whether it was absorbent ticket sales, whether it was the truth stuff, whether it was fucking Seth getting fake hurt, whether it was like everything that came out was a fucking Cena to start off the year.
Mhm.
So I don't know if necessarily if I'd put it at fourth, maybe third. Um, but it's tough because again, not they didn't give you a lot to be like, fuck yeah. Like there wasn't a whole lot that I mean, you could argue maybe SummerSlam was the best show of the year for WWE at least.
Mhm.
Um, and they were doing okay around that, but just everything kind of around it, you felt immediately with the Netflix switch that the boom era was done. Um, and they unfortunately just were playing catch up ever since. And I don't know if they've necessarily done a great job of that. And again, if you want to look at it financially, yes, of course. They're making more money than they know what to do with. And they're still going to fill that fucking Vegas stadium, whether, they drop the prices or not. So it's whatever. They're going to make money despite himself. Triple H is a zillionaire who should be a
They're
or
big-
bajillionaire.
it took the
He's not
words
a
out of my mouth.
gajillionaire. Yeah. Um. So yeah. So it's tough because again, financially, you can't completely discredit it, but they didn't really give us a lot to smile about for a company that for years said they like to put smiles on faces. So
Fair freaking play. And this next one, I mean, here's the thing, like the way that the company conducts business is another thing that could potentially affect promotion of the year. This one was a little bit more alarming to me because I think it speaks more to WWE than elsewhere. The best weekly TV show for the seventh year in a row was AEW Dynamite. And weekly TV show, it's something you can enjoy in a vacuum. And then you can still be like, oh, okay, but where are we going here? You can be entertained, but are you thrilled with where the story's going or where the promotion's going? So AW Dynamite was first. CMLL Super Viernes. I think that was the best attempt for a Spanish word I've done so far.
the
They
best you
were
got, I
second.
was gonna say it.
Collision. AEW Collision was third, ahead of Raw, SmackDown, and NXT. I mean, Dynamite, in my opinion, I think it's just consistently the best weekly show, but that there are folks that are putting, and I like Collision, but hardly, I mean, we just had Grand Slam this Saturday, but hardly ever is Collision a newsworthy show. It's
Yeah.
fun wrestling you can put on for like maybe 2 hours, most of the time, at the best of times, but it's something you can skip if you're worried about the stories or continuity. That Collision is being ahead of Raw or SmackDown here. I think that's more of a problem if you're WWE because that is solely on the content you're providing. I don't know, that rings alarm bells to me. I don't know.
I I don't know. For me, I think you kind of have to take that with a little bit of a grain of salt because I do, for the voters, a lot of them, regardless, like if they're, observer subscribers in that sense too, I think they're gonna favor, a collision over a Raw or an NXT regardless. Um,
I think
but
I have to
it's
go back
it's
through
tough.
previous years. I do believe that, like, say, Raw or SmackDown were up in previous years. I just have this year's votes ahead, but
Yeah.
because like before WWE has won they won promotion of the year the last 2 years. So I
Yeah.
mean,
Well, and like especially like 23, 20, like during their big boom, they were great. There are still a couple things in there that obviously we rolled our eyes at, but that like it's always tough to say too, because yes, part of it was, just the new rush in of, the Triple H era and what that was going to be. And but I think a lot of it had to do too with just being allowed to do shows again. Because, we kind of finally start getting full shows, what, mid 21, and you find your footing. It's still a little awkward, but then by 22, you get the news Triple H is coming in and you really start running from there. So it's tough to say whether it was a WWE thing or whether it was just, hey, isn't it great that we're all allowed to be within 6 feet of each other again? It's tough. I think you got to look at it both ways there. But they did have some very good years up until corporate greed consumed. I don't know. Yeah, I still obviously enjoy it, but it's tough. It's like especially in a vacuum. Like yeah, I don't know.
yeah. Pro Wrestling Match of the Year. This is some fun stuff. So the match of the year by about 130 points or so. Kenny Omega and Gabe Kidd on the second night of the Tokyo Dome. I forget what this name was called. Some co-promoted show between New Japan, AEW, CMLL. That was the match of the year, just slightly ahead of Bandito and Konosuke Takeshita from the Ring of Honor show right before AEW All in Texas. Speaking of All in Texas, Adam Page and Jon Moxley followed that. And then rounding out the top five, Místico and MJF in Arena Mexico. Adam Page and Will Ospreay, number five. Truth be told, as like a spectacle and something that I was emotionally invested in, Adam Page and Will Ospreay was my match of the year. I think in terms of something that's gripping, because Kenny Omega and Gabe Kidd, if you haven't watched it, tremendous match. It's Kenny Omega's first match since coming back from almost dying of diverticulitis over a year. And so he goes to New Japan to take on this Gabe Kidd. He's a brawler. And halfway through the match, Kenny's supposed to be the babyface, but then the fans just do not accept Kenny as the babyface. So they kind of do a turn mid-match, and it's just gripping stuff. So, but Page and Osprey is probably mine. I'll give a bone to WWE. John Cena and Cody Rhodes at SummerSlam was unbelievable too. Like, I had so much fun watching it. It's probably the most fun I had watching wrestling was that match, specifically that in 2025. Yeah, so there's lots of ways to go. I think I go Page and Osprey from the Double or Nothing show in 2025. Ace, how about you? There was just so much good stuff this year. I gotta say, the tippy top was unbelievable.
I will say I did really enjoy it, but I am surprised to see Hangman and Mox so high up.
Yeah, that's
That one kind of stuck out to me there. I'm not gonna lie.
yeah,
Um,
that's an interesting one. I think we could maybe talk about All In too, but I mean, they did a great job. But I think I remember talking to you before this, like, the end of WrestleMania 40 where Cody finishes the story and it's just a lot of smoke and mirrors at the end with it's like the Avengers coming back to defeat Thanos kind of thing, like nothing but run-ins. That was kind of like this, where Jon Moxley and his Death Riders are trying to hang on to the AEW Championship. Hangman has buddies like Samoa Joe and Will Ospreay trying to help. Darby Allin and Bryan Danielson make their return.
it did
Swerve
feel
Strickland.
very Bloodline rules now that you that you
It
mentioned
was
it.
it was remarkably Bloodline
It's
rules,
gonna
but
be Bloodline rules. Yeah.
it was
Uh,
an outstanding spectacle, though, and they worked hard. And I gotta say, the moment at the end was great. Probably the best natural pop AW ever got. Jon Moxley, when he was getting hung by the chain, looked like he was fearing for his life. I understand where they're coming from, but I don't know. But then again, I love Cena and Cody this year. That was also kind of a spectacle too. That was a lot of smoke and mirrors, but I loved all of it. Like the shot of John Cena
Cena.
with the AA coming up
Yeah,
through
that
Cody's
was.
spot on the stage. Yeah, that got me good.
I think even just the fact for a lot of people that they finally dropped the fucking heel shit was like that alone, like the color coming back where it was like finally, like, all right, let's do
Yeah.
this, Rafa. I personally, as much as I loved Cena Cody there too, the only other WWE one I'd even want to mention, which again, I don't know if you could say necessarily the best, but for me at least, emotionally invested Cena Styles in Perth was just, I think that was the best of those tribute matches done right. Because he was doing a little bit of that with like Logan Paul, and I think that was just kind of a love letter for the two of them both to um, get their shit in that way. So I really enjoyed that one. But
Mhm.
yeah, no, I mean, I was surprised to see Mox and Hangman. For me, again, it was more the moment of him finally winning the title, where it was like, okay, that probably does bump it a little bit too. But yeah, I feel like there was just some other matches that you probably could have had in that spot. But
Agreed, but I think a lesson we can take is you gotta stick to the ending. And I do think that's a theme that occurs a little bit more. Quick feud of the year, the rivalry of the year. Speaking of the two, Adam Page and Jon Moxley was the feud of the year by quite a bit. I gotta agree. I almost want to say Death Riders versus AW at that point, but that's a little bit too broad. Uh, Saya Kamatami and Tom Nakano in Stardom was the runner-up. MJF and Mystico and CMLL and AW followed up. It was an hard one with rivalries this year. I mean, I think Page and Moxley was a good choice. I don't think there was something like, say, CM Punk and the Drew McIntyre from 2024, for example, where it felt like a
yeah, that was
blood feud.
clearly
I don't know. Did anything stand out to you for the rivalry of the year?
You know what? Now that I think about it, not really. Um, I do think that Mox and Hangman definitely would have been just kind of the build going into that. But yeah, now that I think about it, I don't. There's nothing else that really jumps to mind for, especially on the WWE side, because it was fucking just Punk and Seth forever. Um,
The
but
Seth Ryder verse. Let's go.
yeah, that was something.
Seth Vortex was
Um,
worst at times.
yeah,
Anyway,
well, not a great year for maybe WWE versus the fans at some point. But
oh my god.
yeah, no, not a lot that stick out to me at least immediately that make you go like, yeah.
Fair play. Okay. Now now for the nihilistic portions of our brain, we can enjoy these ones. Most overrated wrestler of the year. So someone who's pushed very high, presented in a very on a high pedestal, who probably doesn't have the skill set to require it. I feel bad because I don't think this guy has been bad as previous winners over the years. The most overrated wrestler by quite a bit, Jay Uso, and his entrance especially. Most overrated of the year. Follow-ups include, I won't go this far, CM Punk. I mean, I don't like Phil Brooks, but you know what? I wouldn't go that far. And then Jade Cargill followed at 3. Then eventually just becomes a freaking popularity contest. Main event Jey Uso sounds about right, Ace. I mean, it was a spectacular fall over the year, as much as you hate to admit it, but is there someone who takes the crown for most overrated for you?
No, yeah, I feel bad for Jay because he was kind of put in a bad position. Because honestly, I think if it was executed a little differently, you know, people wanted Cena to win that Rumble, and I think they were a little upset after that, even if they still wanted Jay. Um, and then he did not do himself any favors going into Mania. And then it just, yeah, I think it was a tough one where we never really fully got behind him. And then by then it was just too late and the writing was kind of on the wall. So I totally agree with that. Yeah, I wouldn't put Punk on that. I thought Punk had a pretty decent year, all things considered. I wouldn't have put him on that list. But
Yeah, I can understand, like, say, and this is a whole nother topic for another day about, okay, I can, if something doesn't look completely clean or crisp, I can forgive it in a sense. Like, I'll remember a polarizing match was his match with Gunther at SummerSlam. Like, I think the story of the match was good, was this grizzled old vet overcoming the odds. He got so gassed and some of his offense looked so bad, I couldn't quite suspend my disbelief. There were a few of those times that looked like Punk had those moments. I don't think it's enough for him to be the most overrated, but I can see where they're coming from. Maybe just a little bit harsh in my mind.
mhm.
Most underrated. My guy, the Beast Mortos in AEW. I don't know. I think he's doing just fine dating Mercedes Moné. I mean, it's not all doom and gloom for our.
That's not really, depending on how I was gonna say, it's not necessarily an accolade. Uh,
I think he's doing fine. He's a lawyer. He's
Good
got
for him.
Mercedes
Yeah.
Moné as his partner. I think it's all fine, but most underrated, someone who should probably be featured more. Beast Mortos is number one. I mean, this guy, he's gigantic. He moves like he's a 125-pound luchador. I don't think he won a match on TV in AEW this year, so I can understand. He'd probably be my choice too. Follow up runner up, Javon Evans in NXT. You take a look at the state of NXT right now and just like how they're suffering for stars right now. And this Javon Evans guy just looked spectacular. It felt like TNA even knew what to do with him when that working relationship was continuing to have. And WWE took one look at him at Saturday Night's Main Event, John Cena's last match, and they called him up. Yeah, I'd probably go with the Beast Mordos. Anyone come up to your mind, someone who was underrated over the course of a year, who should probably be featured a little bit more?
Actually, real quick, just even on the topic of Javon Evans, I do think now it'll make up for it. So I almost no, I should say I shouldn't not agree with it because your argument is they could have used him in 2025, but I think they will counter course that for this year. Well, we'll see. It's still early, obviously,
Him being
but
that
from
Royal
what he's
Rumble
done,
Iron Man this year
yeah,
alone, it's already a much better sign than what was happening.
from what he's done just in the last few weeks, you can tell um, I mean, we kind of even touched on it. If you want to look at some of the women, I think a Chelsea Green you could make an argument for because she's one of those where whatever she's done is absolutely just fucking fantastic. Um, but yeah, I don't know if anybody else is really jumping to mind. There's a lot of guys that both WWE and AEW haven't necessarily been using, but it's also tough because just with so many guys, like it's just
These
nature of the
rosters are
beast. If there's 60, 70 guys on each of your rosters, like there's gonna be a few that just don't get used, right? And it's
Yep, and quite frankly, like the standard of work rate has gone up over the last couple decades,
yeah.
where folks might be more of the complete package. They thrive 20 or 30 years ago, but it's good for us. I mean, our steaks are too juicy, our
Yeah.
lobsters are too buttery, but it
Yeah,
feels
that's
bad
our
for the
biggest
folks.
problem, right?
Not too bad. And you know what? I can remember this took place in 24, but when Chelsea Green became the US champion, good Victoria gal, that title is basically created for her just so she
Yeah.
could have a championship. So you know what? Not all doom and gloom for her. And now her boy Zack Ryder, or her husband Zack Ryder's Matt Cardona now back. He got his job. Kevin Owens, proven right. Oh boy.
That was I don't know if there was a clip award of the year, but that's probably my clip. But that was so funny.
Vocals. I'm gonna rewatch that afterwards.
Actually, going back to match of the year, I'm surprised that Sammy and Kevin didn't get a little more love from Elimination Chamber. Now that I think
Yeah.
about it,
Yeah, no. Honestly, like, yeah, that was great. We're gonna touch on Elimination Chamber a little bit more because I thought it was a good show, but there's also examples. But yeah, no, that was a great match. But I think we've seen Sammy and Kevin a lot over the years, so maybe it just kind of got lost. But yeah, those two were
yeah,
just
the
brilliant.
yeah, that's a good point.
Best non-wrestler, by leaps and bounds, with 658 votes, Don Callis, that dirty, rotten, slimy bastard. Paul Heyman in second with 238 votes, and a distant third is Stokely Hathaway. I mean, Ace, I want to ask you about Don Callis. I feel like you've had a love and hate relationship with Don Callis over the years. Does he earn it this year, or what are your feelings on him?
Yeah, for me, if you can get a good meme, so for historically for the last few years, I just everything that Callus is involved in, I'm kind of it's like it's kind of where I'm getting with Heyman now. Funny enough, with him being two. Um, but if you can make me laugh, I think it helps. And honestly, the Don Callis memes of like Tommaso and have kind of warmed the cockles of my darkened heart.
Most famous one, it's at Revolution this last year. It's Kenny Omega and Konosuke Takeshita. If you're on Twitter or Blue Sky or wherever, you've probably seen it. Don Callis like jumping up and down.
Yeah,
He kills me every time. Or, as you mentioned, the Tommaso face. So he introduces Hechicero, one of the members of his family. He speaks terrible white boy Spanish, but he introduces him as Hechicero. But then he makes the weirdest scrunched up face as he leans backwards as the camera zooms in on him. It's unbelievable. But because I think this guy is brilliant. He's like, even when he's on commentary, he's brilliant. I think if there's a problem with Don Callis, this guy's all over the show, and he himself never gets his comeuppance, so I can see how folks can be annoyed with him. Overall, I think he does a great job, but what was it? I think it was like those early New Japan shows we were watching once. We were starting to dip our toes in there. How he's on commentary and he's using terms like Mark, and he's just calling like his play-by-play guy a Mark or whatever. And it's like, no, don't use those terms on the broadcast.
yeah. I mean, now though, it's just so commonplace that
Hmm.
um, yeah. It's funny that that was such a big, especially for me. I was like, "What are you doing?" And to me, it kind of sounded a little cheesy too. But yeah, but now it's everything's a work, right? So it's
But you're still not going to give up wrist tape or Randy Orton wearing wrist tape or the champion coming out last. You're never going to surrender those positions,
there are
right?
little thing. The wrist tape was just awkward to me. Like Randy like looked naked when he's like what was that like 2010, 2011?
Yeah, yeah.
Um the champion coming out last is a hill that I've died on for way too long. And I don't even know necessarily why. But yeah, it's always something I notice. It's always something where I'm like, wait a minute. Um, yeah. But so maybe I don't know if I'll ever give that one, even just for the bit. I don't know if I'll ever give that one up.
So good. Now, going on to the Best Television Announcer Award, by a hair, by about 18 votes, Bryan Danielson. He came in late to the game. I mean, I think he's brilliant on AEW broadcasts, but showed up in like August or September. Wasn't really around for the full year and doesn't really do each week. Just ahead of Walker Stewart. Does an excellent job with New Japan Pro Wrestling, so I don't watch every show or every week or even every couple months. He does an excellent job at research and giving you the context. And if you're a New Japan viewer, you can dive in and you know exactly what's happening. And it's not to a point that is annoying to the religious viewer, I suppose. So he probably would have got my vote. And then top in fifth with 38 votes, the top WWE guy was Michael Cole. I don't know. Walker Stewart is probably my guy. I understand Brian, though, even though he wasn't around for the year. Who's your commentary of the year? I mean, truthfully, sometimes I just tune out commentary, so it's hard for me to think of particularly great commentators, but do you have someone that you still like listening to, Ace?
Yeah, I remember at first I wasn't it felt like kind of was at 23, 24 when Graves moved over to play by play. I didn't know how to feel about Excalibur when he was play by play. I've come to grown to actually kind of like him for like play by play. I really like Tessitore too. Nothing against
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean Cole's kind of he's been doing it so long. It's just he's obviously had good and bad.
He
But I
is who
think
he is.
When Cole's locked in, he's locked in. But yeah, just I kind of think from an overall point of view, yeah, I really like Tessitore actually. I'm not gonna let like a
Shout
lot
out
of
to
people I think
Tessitore.
find
Like,
him a little boring or like a light Cole, but he's I don't know, I think he's really getting his feeding now.
I think he does a good job. I don't think he's the best, but he does a really good job. And honestly, it's a miracle he's done well because how many former professional sports broadcasters, like from ESPN or whatever, have come into WWE and have fallen right flat on their face just because, to be frank, they don't get it. I
Yeah.
mean, the
Well, and
closest
they've
one
been
I think
trying to
of
find a Cole replacement for years now.
here's I mean, Mike Adamle, less said the better. Who is that Irish fellow? That Patrick guy.
Oh, Kevin Patrick. Yeah,
Kevin
yeah.
Patrick. God, yeah, no, he just he,
Jimmy
he couldn't
Smith.
fit. Jimmy Smith was eventually starting to do something pretty good, but it was a long time coming for Jimmy Smith. It was like I think that was the best he was doing, but yeah.
There's that guy from the
Oh,
score too, wasn't there for like Aiden?
Mauro Ranallo?
Aiden? No, no, no.
Oh, Arda Cal?
No. You're not the score. No, MLB. Sorry, Aiden
Oh,
something or a Vert Vic.
oh God. I know what
Yeah,
you're
it's
talking
gonna
about.
bug me till
He does
yeah.
a really good job for does a really good job. It just did not work at all for WWE.
It was
I don't
pretty
know.
amicable. The I won't say firing, but the parting ways. It was kind of like, yeah, it's not for. I tried it, not for me. But
I'm
what
gonna
was his
try.
name?
This is gonna. Oh my God! Everyone's probably just pulling their hair out that we can't remember this
Yeah,
guy's name. Uh,
I think it's
I'm
Vink
trying.
or Verk or something.
Adnan Verk. There we
There you
go.
go. Yeah, there
That's
you go.
it. Thank God. We eventually stopped drowning. Thank you, Ace.
Yeah.
Ah, live to tape, baby. Live to tape. All right. Now, worst television announcer by a landslide, Booker T. A divisive choice. I get
I
it.
don't actually hate Book. You know.
I ca- Here's the thing. I don't hate Booker T. I can kind of understand the critiques. From a color commentator, you want someone to provide insight, about, what's like being a wrestler, what should be the strategy, or what was your experiences like? I think that's how Brian Danielson brings a lot to the commentary table. Booker T is just saying noise and just trying to get himself over, but you know what? He's has had some work in getting some folks over. Like, I think Trick Williams is more of a star because Booker T would do
Right.
that singing during his entrance. And now you're seeing it with Joe Hendry, and this is divisive, but Stephanie Vicaire, just because, this is probably maybe not the best way, but because there's the critiques that now the gooners in the audience will just chant Booker's anytime she goes for the devil's kiss just because you gotta see her butt. And people will blame Booker for that, but they also kind of got her over in a way. It's a very slippery slope. Uh yeah, I don't know. And that's the thing. I mean, I'm gonna go on a rant here in a little bit, but like there's guys like, okay, you know what? There's some guys who are like not good, but like for various reasons. I mean, Michael Cole is who he is. Vic Joseph, I think he's just following orders through the headset.
Yeah, he's fine.
Tony Schiavone, I mean, I think Tony Schiavone's not bad, but like he's just old. I think he's slowly, at the very least, he's excited and he's not trying to put himself over, and he's just losing it just a little bit. But that's what happens with age. If this guy was here for the entire year, my choice without a shadow of a doubt, I never want to see him on a pro wrestling program again. Pat McAfee, the worst, the worst, the worst. Nobody comes close for me. I never
It
need to
really
see this.
soured quick. It really, because like
Oh my.
it was so fresh at first, like 21, 22. It was great. And then yeah, it just, it just the match with Gunther didn't help either. But just man, it really bugged me too. I with the chamber when he was complaining about the Canadians booing the anthem. And it's like, dude, yeah. And then he came out and he said, like, oh, well, I didn't know. It's like, did you have like, there's no way you didn't fucking know.
No
You
way. You can't be that in
you
your head.
podcast every day for 2 hours with a bunch of fucking lugheads. You know it was a conscious decision to say we're going into Canada a month fresh after the tariffs and we're fucking belting the anthem and not playing the Canadian one. That was a clear choice, and it was the wrong one. If you're gonna fucking do it, do both, but you never fucking do it at wrestling shows. So it was clearly a choice. And then for you to turn around and say, what's wrong with the like
Yeah, he's a
that
fucking.
aside, it's just that's not even the announcing. It's just, yeah, it became all about him in that
Yeah,
sense, and very few
exactly.
guys have benefited. Like you were saying, at least with Booker T, there was a few guys that benefited from it. Very few, if any, have been. The only call I can remotely remember from like a Pat McAfee catalog would be the one with Lesnar when he first came back in what was it 21, when he said like if aliens came to Earth and we needed to elect a human to fight them, it would be Brock Lesnar. And that's like the only call I can think of where it's like, oh, he actually made someone look fucking baller with that.
Yeah. Because, like you mentioned, like he came during the pandemic, like not when there's like minimal fans attending. Like this was the Thunderdome in front of nobody. And Vince McMahon was completely crazy. He had everything under his iron fist, he had everything dictated. Pat McAfee comes, and to his credit, he's a huge broadcast star. He's above WWE if we're being honest. So he's just coming in and having fun, and it was a breath of fresh air. But then it comes to a point where you're just trying to pop yourself or you're having fun. I'll give this critique for Taz in AEW, for example, because like he'll still like give you some insight, but then sometimes he's just trying to pop himself and he'll just take the seriousness down of a match. Pat McAfee, and I love the show. Like the Elimination Chamber this year, I thought one of the best WWE shows ever in history. Really good. Big fan of that show. Pat McAfee almost ruined the Sami Zayn Kevin Owens match for me because, as you say, he's trying to get himself over or he's trying to pop himself. At a point, I think it's Sami Zayn hits Kevin Owens with a garbage can, and Pat McAfee says, he used Dominic Mysterio to hit Kevin Owens, because Dominic Mysterio is garbage. And it's like, this is a non-sanctioned grudge match between best friends, time and a place, but he's just trying to get himself fucking over. And that's after he's continuing to ruin the broadcast. He's honestly mad because, Canada, you're going to talk about my country. And it's clearly coming from him because you can see Michael Cole's just completely uncomfortable about it. I can't remember if it was Wade Barrett or Corey Graves, also on color. I can't remember which one, but Pat Pat McAfee mentions it like 2 or 3 more times, and they're uncomfortable with it. He's a detriment to the product. Yeah, I never need to see this guy again. Like, I'm happy you're on College Game Day. I'm happy you got your podcast. Get out of my company. It's not even my company anymore. Get out of my business.
No, it actually like even kind of on that you mentioned quickly with Graves and Barrett, they had decent years too. I know Graves for a lot of people can be. I've always thought he's a constant in that sense, where like I don't think there's not a lot of like crazy great Graves calls, but I don't think he's a detriment in that sense. I think he's just, if nothing else, little dull, right?
Honestly,
Barrett's
shout out
actually
to
grown quite well into it too.
agreed on Barrett. Corey Graves, honestly, like I saw 1 or 2 AAA shows since WWE's purchased AAA.
Oh, right, because yeah,
Corey
he's doing
Graves
this much.
does a great job. I mean, his brother's with AAA, so he does know the history, but he's got a clear voice and he gives you the context for if you're a new time viewer. Yeah, so I used to hate Graves for a couple of years. He became like Matt Stryker to me for a little bit, where he's just
Oh,
I
wow,
think the
really?
smartest guy in a room and just
Yeah.
he's just grinding your
For me,
gears.
the weirdest was when him and Barrett were doing Smack. Like, I don't know what it is, and I haven't watched a lot of AAA, but it's always been weird hearing him on play by play for me. I don't
Because he's
know.
too much of a color.
He's a
He's
color
been a
guy.
color commentator
Yeah.
for ages, and it feels like 2 color commentators, right?
Yeah. Maybe, yeah, I'm not sure. Just his style, like, yeah, I don't know how to explain, but it's never gelled, I think, in the WWE sense. So I'd have to see again with AAA. But yeah, he's a color guy for me.
hmm Moving on to we're going to the best after going through the worst. The best major wrestling show this year. I was a little bit surprised about this. The best major show was AEW All In Texas with 404 votes. Followed up, AEW Double or Nothing with 287. Third place was Stardom All Star Grand Queendom. I heard that was tremendous. I need to watch that at some point. I thought this was gonna win until I sort of did some digger deeping. Well, going further into my thought was AW Revolution, and then the highest rated WWE show was Elimination Chamber. Came in at 6th. Here's the thing. What was your show of the year? I'll give you mine. I can kind of because I had like 3 contenders from what I've seen in my mind, or 4, quite frankly. Everything, I think probably the most complete one was Double or Nothing, beginning to end. That was my choice. I can kind of see other reasons why, say, some shows did better, some did worse. I think it all comes to sticking the landing. But what was your show of the year? What was your best major show of the year? Whether it's a pay per view, like it is a pay per view, but what was your basically your favorite pay per view event? I suppose.
Yeah, so for me, like if you're looking strictly WWE first, I'd probably say either the Chamber or SummerSlam. Um, for AEW, it was really tough with All In because I felt like some of the big matches underdelivered. Specifically with Omega and Okada, where it's tough because they've had such incredible matches that it's not going to live up to. I think they tried to build it as this like it's going to be, So I think that did hurt, at least for me, that did kind of hurt. All In, still a very good show, but it's just with and then I kind of mentioned it earlier, just my feelings on Hangman and Mox, but I really actually enjoyed Tony Storm and Mercedes. I thought that was incredible. That's probably the only match of the night from it. Um, but yeah, so some of the just underwhelming. I won't even say underwhelming, just more of like you're over gassing or overhyping yourself for something, and then it comes and you're kind of like, oh, okay, Um, which is interesting because I almost felt that way even with Sammy and Kevin, because again, we've seen these guys so many times and it was still good. But you do kind of run into that issue when you've seen a match so many times. Like how many times are you going to reinvent the wheel? A classic example I always use was like H and Michaels at Bad Blood. By the time they finally got to their Hell in the Cell in 2004, it's like, man, we've seen this for 2 fucking years. Like, what more can you do? you know.
Mhm.
So I think you run into that problem at some point eventually too. Um, that being said, still trying to think of anything else AEW wise that I would have put over All. It's tough because All In is with their, with it being the biggest show. Double or Nothing still was pretty good as well, but yeah, maybe just for me personally, with how before we saw how the heel turn went, I think the heel turn was kind of that oh fuck, right? So I'd probably give the nod to Elimination Chamber for that. Uh,
Yeah, I think it comes to clearly folks care about how the ending is stuck. Like, I mean, if they're gonna get a not gonna get a sunk cost, I suppose. So with All In, my issues not necessarily. I mean, with Kenny Omega and Okada, it was a great match. I mean, it could not match what they accomplished in New Japan. They were in their primes back then, and the
course.
last match I had was 7 years prior, so I did have some expectations there. I love the main event, and it was an all-timer ending. Tony and Mercedes was great. The tag team match with the Young Bucks and Swerve and Will Ospreay is fantastic. That was a long show though, like 5 hours, not including the pre-show. Uh, it took some time. Like those Casino Gauntlet matches took forever and ever to get through. There was a real somber feeling because Adam Cole was supposed to defend the TNT Championship against Kyle Fletcher. It became unveiled that, likely for concussion reasons, Adam Cole is unable to compete, and it's like he was ready to retire, and apparently he was ready to retire, but kind of had his wait a sec moment, and that kind of took the air out of the building for a little bit. So it was a long show, a lot of stuff that wasn't overly exciting, some downer moments like Adam Cole potentially leaving wrestling, but the ending was so good, it made up for it, I suppose. And this is where I thought like beginning to end, Double or Nothing delivered beginning to end for me. But I thought about, okay, Revolution. It was looking like to be an all-timer pay-per-view event. Omega and Takeshita. The Hollywood ending between Tony Storm and Mariah May. One of my favorite matches of the year. A woman's bloodbath. And then another bloodbath with Will Ospreay and Kyle Fletcher. But the main event was the infamous Jon Moxley and Adam Copeland match for the AEW Men's World Championship. And contrary to popular belief, I don't believe that was a bad match. It was just an old school main event grappling fest after two bloodbaths, and a technical spectacle. And you had a failed cash in, like Christian Cage has this contract for a championship match anytime, anywhere. Fails at that attempt, so it's like, okay, we didn't really get our rewards for sticking with that story. So that's an example of, the ending, it didn't stick. Or a great show was the Elimination Chamber, and I wondered if, say, they followed up properly with John Cena's heel turn, as great of a moment that was, as great of a turn that was, if they didn't fumble the ball over the next couple of months, would that have been remembered a little bit better in hindsight?
I think that's the thing with the power of hindsight. It's tough to say, but I think if you look at it from like the evening of, where it's like, oh fuck, they actually did it. Like that's crazy. That's nuts. Obviously, it sucked in the end, and it wasn't all bad. Like there were some elements of the Cena heel turn that I thought was okay. It was really interesting actually to see him work Randy. Just historically, after every single match they've had, it's either been face versus face or Randy's been the heel, right? So that was kind of cool to see in that. But everything else, I shouldn't say everything else, but a lot of it else was, yeah.
Yeah. Worst major show. We're going to get our nihilism back. I did not watch this show. WrestlePalooza was number one with 249 votes, 19 votes ahead of Survivor Series. I also did not watch that show for a reason we'll get to. I think we're at a point where I think we're past the point of all-time terrible wrestling shows. Thank goodness, but something has to be the worst or something has to be the least bad, I suppose. All I knew about WrestlePalooza is I think it was around this time where it was announced that WWE was going to be doing WrestleMania in Saudi Arabia in 2027. So they thought, oh, it's the first show on ESPN. There's going to be surprises. This will be another WrestleMania for when WrestleMania is actually in Saudi Arabia. And they just had kids come out with John Cena, and then he got killed dead by Brock Lesnar, and then it was just a show from what I was told.
which was
Uh,
already controversial enough with Lesnar coming back. And
we'll get to that. I promise you we'll get to that. We have a reason to get to that, but so I can't really have an opinion on this show because I didn't watch it. Was WrestlePalooza the worst show of the year?
again, you kind of touched on it, but just the idea of it being dull, like, and again, it's one of those things where when you get your hopes up too much, it's, so I think, again, first ESPN show, wow, it's going to be incredible. And even ESPN came out and said it wasn't that great, right? Um,
I
but
still don't
it
think
was
we
one of
have the
those cases.
viewership of that show yet, too, by the way. Like, we never knew how many folks tuned in because there are issues
Yeah.
with downloading the app or like being able to subscribe or where you go, but they never gave the viewership. So if it was great, we'd know. But clearly
Yeah.
it wasn't. It was just another
Yeah.
new era, pal.
Just one of many. I guess you could say I didn't really enjoy the show. I mean, even Cody and Drew, that didn't really light the world on fire. Punk and Becky, when it first, there was some intrigue there, especially with AJ first coming back, but it just, yeah, it ended up being very mid. And yeah.
All right. Finally, most disgusting promotional tactics. So this is something that's kind of used as a way to sell a show or sell your brand or whatever. First place, I can't disagree with this. WWE bringing back Brock Lesnar. Follows 260 votes was first. It was ahead of TKO's relationship with Saudi Arabia and then TKO's relationship with Donald Trump. Fourth place was, this is fucking wild, the Raja Jackson incident, where, it's Quentin Rampage Jackson's son. He's live streamed himself at a indie
Oh,
show.
yeah.
That one probably should win, but I can't hardly disagree with WWE bringing back Brock Lesnar. I mean, personally, as kind of mentioned, if this podcast didn't exist, that would have been it with me in WWE. I would have never watched another show or bought another ticket. Yeah, I still can't believe he's here after all this time, and not really much of a needle mover. Ace, I don't know, did the voters get it right? Did anything else like really grind your gears this year?
The only other thing, I think it's kind of hard to look past the Lesnar stuff, but the only other thing that I would argue would be, I don't know how you'd say, I don't know if it was a tactic, but just the firing and then rehiring of Truth,
That was an
and then
honorable mention.
trying to, yeah, and then trying to tout how great they were for bringing him back, and then going around on Unreal after saying it was part of the show and calling Truth the fucking idiot for not renewing his contract. And then you've got everybody like fucking Road Dogg saying, oh, nothing's guaranteed at this age. And, yet you have every single one, like even Cody said, I don't care what he's getting paid. Some guys you just keep them on because it boosts morale, and Truth's one of them. And yeah, they said it was a part of the show. So, what do you like of the show? And then they turn around and so that's the only other one, but it's really hard to look past the Lesnar stuff. So I think it makes sense that that's number one. I mean,
At least
apparently it's
one.
not that hard to look past because they've done it now for 4 months or however long he's been back.
In
But
fact, it's
yeah,
quite easy if you just don't really care about
you
cases
just
of.
close your eyes and cover your ears and you try really, really hard.
Yeah, God. I mean, like, yeah, it's no biggie as long as you, ignore cases that are open where said person is mentioned dozens of times in a case involving sexual assault and sexual sex trafficking. And, it's not like it's a decade ago even where he's like a true needle mover. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I still
What's
can't get over
the community meme? Like I can look past the assault, but I can't look
it.
past. You can look past assault.
Yep. What's the old saying? Like, if Adolf Hitler could do a German suplex, some wrestling fans would just be able to look past it. God.
Yeah, we're a weird niche world, um, and that's I
Ah,
think why I gatekeep it because I'm embarrassed and I don't want other people to know what
yep,
I know.
that's true. We should, folks, yeah, we can gatekeep some of the sickos out there. Like, you know what? Just
Yeah,
wrestling. We're going to have the folks who are wrestling for everyone join us, not the. You guys know what I'm saying. God. Brock Lesnar. God damn it. Yeah. Anyways, yeah, no, this guy was like the reason I fought. He was like my battle cry for pro wrestling when I was defending pro wrestling in high school, and yeah, what are you gonna do? Worst TV show. Not gonna lie, I kind of came in and out. I wasn't watching like religiously or weekly. WWE NXT was the worst wrestling TV show as voted. 401 votes was number one. SmackDown followed suit with 225. TNA Impact, Canadian content, third and 96. NWA Power, fourth. There can't be 94 people watching NWA Power. I'm sorry. But
I don't know if I've ever watched. Yeah, I've seen. I remember. Didn't was it Trevor Murdoch? One of them. I remember
yeah,
seeing
Trevor
some, but
Murdoch was the
yeah,
NWA
I've never
champion.
watched an episode. I've never watched an episode.
I think I was watching like the first early on, like where they're going to a TV studio before the pandemic, and I was like, okay, this is old school. It's kind of endearing. Like Eddie Kingston, LA Knight, then known as Eli Drake, was great on that show.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
But they had a chance to maybe get on the CW, and on one of their shows, before they got onto the CW, they had a spot on a pay-per-view where there was guys reportedly, well, they weren't doing it. It wasn't real cocaine, but talent were shown doing cocaine.
Doing shoot cocaine. Or...
It was not shoot cocaine.
It was work coke.
Do you want to do this? I need to laugh. Tell the folks about the shoot cocaine stuff while I laugh.
Yeah, what was it? It was the cocaine that a lot of people weren't huge on, which fair enough. Maybe a little insensitive.
It's
I
the
believe
character. It was the character. Okay, so it's the old CoKane. So you think of the big red demon Kane when he's just revealed as the Undertaker's brother in that exact same setup. He's just Snow White though.
And his hype up before the choke slam as he rips a line, or not even a line, he fucking throws the bag in his face, and
he throws an 8-ball in his face.
And to be fair, like a lot of wrestlers, especially the old school ones, are have struggled with addiction. So, but I'm not here to debate that. But I believe it was Dustin Rhodes who came forward and said, this is disgusting, which fair enough. He struggled for years. Everyone's allowed to have an opinion on it. But the funniest thing he said after that was, I don't care if it was shoot cocaine or not. And I just love the idea of work or no, not shoot coke. I don't know if it was work coke or not. And I remember one of the quote tweets was like, the idea of work coke means that there's shoot coke. like he's throwing a real 8-ball in his face, and then I love wrestling. You know what? I'm back in. Everybody should watch this stupid shit. I'm back in.
Shoot cocaine. Shoot. I'll never get over that. I'm gonna cry.
The only other to segue for a second, the only other funny one like that I can think of is when they had the Stone Cold podcast, the Broken Skull Ranch one, when it was, so you're mentioned in WWE, you're the TNT champ, kid. I'm sitting at home like, is this guy working or shooting?
Thank you. Look, I peeled the curtain behind. I had to extend our Zoom meeting by like a half hour 2 times now, just because we're having fun. There, we're having fun.
This won't be a habit, I promise.
No, we're not going to mention. It's a long weekend. It's a long episode.
Yeah.
But God, I need to laugh at cocaine.
You guys are going to need some shoot coke to make it through this one.
Okay. Worst match of the year. All right, we're so back. This one was divisive. Like it was either one or the other. And it depends on what your definition of the worst match of the year is. So, number 1, John Cena and Cody Rhodes, night 2 of WrestleMania 42, or 41, sorry. Number 2, this was not on a major promotion. This was during, we talked about WrestleCon taking place during WrestleMania week. This happened during WrestleCon last year. Minoru Suzuki versus Butterbean.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Did you not see it? Okay, first, John
But
Cena, Cody Rhodes. Was this your worst match of the year, or what was your worst match of the year? Before I talk about the lore of
it
Minoru Suzuki and Butterbean.
see it wasn't good. I don't know if I'd say worse. Maybe just given the implications, sure. But trying to think if anything else really stands out.
I'm trying to, because like we
You
talked about
know,
how. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
maybe I really who knows what it was. Jay and Punk was hard to get through. On that Saturday night's main event.
That neck breaker was like,
Yeah, it
I
was rough.
remember there's a talent in one of the Japanese wrestling companies, Pro Wrestling Noah. One of their stars, Naomichi Marufuji. That botched neck breaker gave him the inspiration to create a new move. Like, that's how bad that botch was. But because here's the thing, we talked about like there. I don't think we're beyond the point of seeing too many all-time terrible shows and all-time terrible
Yeah,
matches. But Cody and Cena, first of all, even before Travis Scott comes out to have his infamous cameo at the end, before then, for the main event of WrestleMania, it was just a dog's breakfast of a match too, and it's
yeah,
hard to look past an egg lane of that magnitude at WrestleMania.
yeah, yeah. I think the stage it was on makes it a bit tougher. So
Now, I had to watch this match again because I couldn't find it hardly anywhere. I found someone, you know how like some folks would get by copyright. I mean, we couldn't for this attempt, but
no, yeah, we could
for
not.
fair
Yeah,
use. But someone was reviewing the Minoru Suzuki Butterbean match. So Minoru Suzuki, his nickname is Murder Grandpa. He's in his late 50s, this Japanese wrestler whose shtick is, and he's fantastic, but he just hits you really, really hard in safe spots. And that's basically the Minoru Suzuki match. Butterbean is that Butterbean, the
yeah,
entertainment boxer who's gigantic. And so Butterbean is in his 60s. He's gigantic. His knees, he can barely move. So it's Minoru Suzuki and Butterbean. They're having supposed to have 4 2-minute rounds. And so the special guest referee is UFC star, former WWE star Dan Severn. So the first round of these 2 minutes, it's striking, but Butterbean, he can hardly move. He can hardly walk. So his jabs are like just him moving his arms, no hip movement or anything. And Minoru Suzuki is just doing some leg kicks on him. That's basically the entire 2 minutes. The first 2 minutes, just that installing. The second one, Minoru Suzuki goes down to take a bound for a heel hook. And then Butterbean also puts Minoru Suzuki in a heel hook. So these two grandpas, these two unks, are just laying on the canvas, putting each other in heel holds, not selling each other's heel holds for 2 minutes. And so the third round, Minoru Suzuki's thinking, like, I gotta do something here. So Butterbean's doing his regular old jabs, and Minoru Suzuki's like jumping up and down to sell them. And so Minoru Suzuki goes to the outside. He tries to drag Butterbean out of the ring, but Butterbean can barely move, and he's gigantic, and he's in his 60s. So Butterbean, I would do the exact same thing. Instead of like taking a bump down, he's like holding the ropes as he's being dragged down by Minoru Suzuki, and he drags him out, and then Minoru Suzuki hits him with a chop. Butterbean stumbles. He almost falls. He looked like us at the Palace in our heyday. We're stumbling backwards,
hell
and we
yeah,
find a way to stay on our feet. And then Dan Severn, in the third round of this third 2 minute round, calls a double count out. The fans are furious, but then he's going to the ring announcer, and there's talks like, oh my God, they're going to restart it. But then the ring announcer's like, yeah, it's a double count out. And that's
I
how
gotta
this
look this up now.
it's
Look this up.
unbelievable. Search up Dan. I was laughing. I didn't do it justice. It looks preposterous. It is genuinely so bad. It's great territory. It's one of those matches. And it's not long to watch. So if you're talking about a worked wrestling match, that probably was the worst match of the year. But you know what? It wasn't in the main event of WrestleMania. It was at fucking WrestleCon. And you know what? I laughed when Travis Scott came out during the main event of WrestleMania. I was not bored during Minoru Suzuki and
That's
Butterbean.
fair. That's fair.
This is unbelievable.
I gotta look that up after this now.
Unbelievable. Worst feud of the year. By a couple of votes, like 29 votes, the former Acclaimed Anthony Bowens and Max Caster. I'm on this one. In second place, although it's weird because in second place, like 29 votes behind, is John Cena and Cody Rhodes. But I'm not on board with that. But also, in a separate category, it was Cody Rhodes versus John Cena and The Rock and Travis Scott. So technically, if you want to combine those two, that whole feud leading up to WrestleMania was voted the worst. But officially, Max Caster and Anthony Bowens in AEW, worst feud of the year. That gets my take. Yeah, I don't know. John Cena and Cody Rhodes quickly. I can't say it's the worst because you know what? We got a good payoff at the end. I still love that
Yeah.
match they had at SummerSlam. And you know what? We talk about, okay, what's the high stakes or how do you define a worst feud? Anthony Bowens and Max Caster are so great as the Acclaimed. They broke up for, they just got to break up. I hate it when promoters do that. I hate it. Or when bookers do that, sorry. So Anthony Bowens, after being away for a couple months, he comes back to take on Max Caster. Max gimmick is he's saying he's the best wrestler alive because he trademarked the best wrestler alive. And he comes out with his fucking trademark or copyright or whatever you want to call it. And he just loses and loses. He loses more than Drew McIntyre. Drew McIntyre is way bigger winner than Max Caster. And so, unfortunately, it's so bad, it's good, and Max Caster starts to get over, and the fans are turning on Anthony Bowens during this feud. And then they're just hinting about them getting back together, but they can't coexist. They can't coexist for the entire year, and we still haven't had that paid off yet. It wasted my time, and you know what? We're old and death is imminent. We only have so many years left on this earth. I don't want to be wasted during my pro wrestling program. So that's my worst view of the year.
There you go. Yeah, again, I don't think you can say with just how it ended with Cody and Cena. I mean, I guess you could argue it's coming in more now, but even like the Drew stuff is I've really not been on board with for a while. Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything else that's jumped out to me.
A couple of other
That's
options include John Moxley and Adam Copeland. I get that. I thought they, on paper, if you were like following it like a math equation, they did everything right, except I don't think anyone wanted to see Adam Copeland be the first credible challenger for John Moxley. TNA and versus NXT, that's kind of a fun one too, because during this whole partnership, TNA's just kind of been the cuck chair, just watching all
yeah.
of, especially lately, like the C team, like the guys who can't get on TV in NXT, this version of NXT developmental, just going into TNA and winning their championships. It's like, and it's hard because TNA has gotten more ticket sales since. You can argue it's the reason they're on AMC in the States. Maybe one of the key reasons that they got on Sportsnet 360 here in Canada, Canadian content. But you know what? It's like you're just another feeder system to WWE essentially. And what are you really giving me here? And they're basically just having like, you'll get AJ Styles for appearance one every 6 months, but you're just having the C squad in NXT just come in and win your championships. I don't know.
Yeah, there's an argument there for sure.
Hmm. Also, this one got 10th. You know what? Charlotte Flair and Tiffany Stratton. You know what? I had fun with that. I
Yeah,
enjoyed
that was fun.
on each other.
I enjoyed that.
Charlotte Flair tried to big league Tiffany Stratton, and then Tiffany Stratton just said, "Fuck you, you're divorced." I loved it. She did not care. I loved it. Figure it out. 25 voters. Get out of here. All right. Worst promotion of the year. We didn't make this vote up. WWE's number one, 420 votes. Again, we kind of talked about like how you get best promotion of the year. It's are you living up to your potential? Lita looks like she has a bunch of takes
Well, we
on.
should jump it in here.
Yep.
What do you want to talk about?
Lita, for those who aren't watching, Lita is Ace's cat here. She has takes about WWE being the worst promotion of the year.
I think
Yeah,
she's
number
probably
two.
yelling at me, being like, "What's taking this show so long?"
We got a long weekend. We got the time. Number two was NWA 329 votes. Third was TNA with 190, and then it's just a bunch of distant runner-ups. We kind of talked about the theme of the show. Is WWE worthy of the worst promotion of the year?
I'm gonna say no again, just because it has been on paper very successful. Um, I haven't watched a whole lot of TNA. I've caught bits sort of here and there, but I feel like that there's more of an argument there versus I think than WWE. But they definitely, like I said, not given us many reasons to you know.
It probably should be. Like, I think, yeah, TNA's business has gone up a little bit with ticket sales and everything. It's not the most ethical way, just, be another feeder system to WWE. But you know what? There's a reason for NWA because I don't know why I remember this. So, Matt Cardona, the former Zack Ryder, was featured prominently on NWA. He has since signed a deal with WWE. However, NWA filmed their TV episodes so far in advance, new episodes have aired with Matt Cardona still in the NWA. That's 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 bad. I don't think I have much to work with, but I don't know. That should probably be the worst promotion. I don't know.
It's crazy.
All right, best gimmick. This is a landslide. We only got two more of these left, folks. 447 votes for first place. Tony Storm, timeless Tony Storm. She's basically the old Marilyn Monroe, old-fashioned actress. Hangman Adam Page second. Surprise. I also want to say depends on which version, but El Grande Americana was third. I almost want to say depending on which one. I mean, I can't disagree with Tony Storm. I mean, she found a way to just live her character, and she's always
Oh
good
yeah,
every single
it's
week.
been fantastic.
Mm-hmm. El Grande Americano. I mean, Chad Gable version for me, big thumbs down. Ludwig Kaiser version for me, thumbs up. I don't know.
You know what's funny? I almost enjoyed it more when it was new still with Gable. So
It
and then
felt
it
like
just but to be fair, they took the ball and kind of ran with it with Kaiser. So
with Gable, I felt it was a bit too much of a dog whistle. Like he's coming out and like his entrance has the Breaking Bad color scheme, like the filter where it's like, oh, it's all light
yeah, again,
orange.
that was fun to me though. I don't know.
I don't know, and like AI's being used for segments and still are being used. Fuck AI.
Yeah.
Cup Check Wrestling is very much fuck AI, and he is being, and I think as is still the case with the Ludwig Kaiser case too, being from the Gulf of America too. It's just God, I rolled my eyes. And then you had Ludwig Kaiser come in, and basically he's being like their version of El Santo, like he's actually speaking like Spanish and like singing and like doing lucha. Now we got these three Americanos and the OG Americano. It's interesting to see how it goes. I mean, I'd like to see Ludwig Kaiser keep this ball rolling with it, I suppose.
Yeah.
And last but not least, the worst gimmick of the year. Specifically, heel John Cena was first at 246. Second place, the Wyatt Six, 134. The Bray Wyatt tribute act. Third was the House of Torture in New Japan Pro Wrestling. Anything stick out for you? I mean, I'm surprised about this. Maybe it's because he kind of left in the first half of the year. The Learning Tree was 8th for 23. When Chris Jericho left AEW, maybe he would have been up there. I know it was kind of getting on some folks' nerves,
Yeah,
but
if there was more, I think if there was more of it, the Cena one makes sense, and I can see why people went with it. And like I said, there was only a few things that you could argue were redeeming. Whether it be like for me, I was really intrigued to see what they were going to do with the first promo, the stuff with Orton, and then everything else was kind of just, The biggest thing for me with it is just I never believed him, not for a second, and
no.
it takes you out of it. Like if it came from more of a place of hurt, and it was like I gave everything, and that's how you fucking treat me. I'm leaving, but it wasn't that. It was it's yeah. I It felt very fake and very da, da, da. right? Oh, you people, you don't get me, and
It was
I'd
so
agree with that.
authentic
It
because
it wasn't
years
as
have,
awful as I thought, but it just yeah, it was not great.
it was as awful. I guess like after all these years, like you,
That was
me,
the follow up we got with it.
our buddy Mike, anyone listening to this podcast could think of a million better ways to do a John Cena heel turn, and all they had was each and every one of you fans. Like a decade ago, maybe you could pull it off. This is his retirement tour where he was beloved and has been beloved for years. I didn't buy it for a
People
second.
just wanted to grieve. People just wanted to say bye to him properly, and then half the people who said goodbye to him properly, it was him telling them they fucking suck. So, yeah.
Oh my god. Yeah, no, well deserved, well deserved. Might need to put a bow on this now. Wow, what a time. I don't know. We'll take a look at post production. I'm kind of inclined maybe see if we can split this up into two parts. Maybe just look back at the year that was, or we'll see. But for those who are listening, thank you for sticking by through us for a long time here on your family day long weekend. Plenty of good stuff happening up this week. This Wednesday, AEW Dynamite, Kenny Omega and Swerve Strickland. We'll continue to see who qualifies for the Elimination Chamber in WWE. And outside of that, we took a look at the year ahead, took a look at the year that was. Ace, any final thoughts or anything else you like to add before we let you go?
No, I think I'm gonna go grab some dinner and rest a little bit, and yeah, enjoy my family day.
Please tell me that you're going to leave up the Galentine's decorations throughout Family Day weekend.
We'll see. I'll have to talk to corporate and see if we're allowed to take them down yet, or if we need to run with it for a couple more days.
Let's see, is this is where we'll decide if Brooke becomes the best or worst booker at
Exactly.
the apartment
Or
this year.
for the Chapel Street apartment. Yeah.
Alrighty. Well, until then, thanks for sticking with us. Happy Family Day long weekend. For Corey Ace, I'm Aaron Schultz. This is Cup Check Wrestling. Listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Blue Sky, Instagram, and TikTok. Cup Check Wrestling, where the big boys play with each other.
Eh.